What is up, Galaxians? Welcome to another live edition of the Galaxy CDs Rocks and Flips Reseller Talk podcast. My name is Ryan, and today we're going to talk. The title says, let's talk about bad sellers, or bad buyers, rather, and when to block them. But it's also about bad potential buyers and just kind of my overview of what that kind of buyer seller relationship maybe should look like. So, this all stems from someone who reached out to me earlier this week. So we're going to get into that story and several others as we go through this. And I'll just kind of ask for your feedback, and you can chime in anytime. Feel free to leave a message in the chat. There is a link pinned in the top if you'd like to come on and share an experience with anybody who's here. I'll bring you on board for that as well. Before we jump in here, a couple of quick hellos. Miss Lachey Resells, good to see you. Thanks for coming out. Black Cat Flips, thank you for showing up again. And Miss complaining about price and/or shipping before we've even done business as an automatic block. It can only go downhill from there. Gosh, you stole my thunder. That is exactly the scenario here. So what happened was I got a message on Monday about a listing I have up, and the message is really combative and confrontational right from rip. And I'm thinking to myself, why are you so mad, bruh? Just calm down. So he's complaining about a crease in the cover and a sticker on it and yada, yada, whatever. And I assume what he's fishing for, he never really asked for anything. He's just complaining about this listing. And I assume what he was fishing for was a discount. And my initial reaction is, what are we even talking about here? You haven't bought the item. It's not like you got it and it was not as it was represented. I purposely took photos of those flaws so that you would know what might be wrong with this thing when you got it. So let's go back in time and look at these kind of customer business relationships. So I started my retail career 40 years ago last month. And I've worked for plenty of companies that were customer is king, customer is always right. And I've never subscribed to that theory. I can remember a time I was a store manager for Best Buy, and I got called up to the front for a customer. And as I'm walking to the front, I'm halfway down the aisle, and I can hear this guy yelling at my customer service rep. And I'm like, what in the world is going on down here? So I get down here to the desk, and he's ranting and raving. And my CSR is, God bless her, she's like an 18 or 19-year-old kid. And she's literally in tears from this guy yelling at her. I don't even go around to the business side of the counter. I just walk right up to this guy on the customer side of the counter. I introduce myself. I say, hi, my name's Ryan. I'm the store manager here. Is this your item? Pointed to the item on the desk. And he says, yes, what are you going to do for me? And I picked it up and I handed it to him. And I said, I'm going to hand this to you and ask you to leave my store. I said, I cannot possibly pay these people enough to listen to you yell at them loud enough that I can hear you halfway down the aisle. When you're ready to come in and act like a grown-up and have a reasonable conversation about whatever the problem is here, I will be more than happy to help take care of you. But today's not going to be that day. You need to go. The customer is not always right. There are two levels to these business relationships. The first one is that you, Mr. Customer or Mrs. Customer, give me money, and I, in return, give you stuff. I give you an item, I give you a service, or whatever it is. And that, at its base level, is what this transaction looks like. As long as your money is not counterfeit and my item is not misrepresented in some way, that is the minimum expectation of what that relationship should look like. You're paying me for a good or service, and I am providing said good or service, period, the end. Now, if you've watched my show for any length of time, you know I'm a big believer in providing top-notch customer service. If you ask me nicely, I will jump through hoops for you. I have taken extra pictures of items. I have taken pictures of particular pages of books or particular passages in a Bible where someone wanted to see how it was worded. I have looked for people in individual yearbooks. I have done all kinds of above and beyond stuff for customers, because I feel like customer service is very important. It will win me, in the end, additional business. But that for me is only true to the extent that that behavior is reciprocated by the customer. Now, I always assume, I've talked about this too, I always assume a positive intent. When someone comes to me with a question or a situation, unless they're combative right off the bat, I assume they come from a place of good intentions, and I'm more than happy to try to help them out. But when that breaks down, it's like any relationship, be it a friendship, a romantic relationship, a business relationship. Once that trust and respect and professional, courteous communication breaks down, you got nothing. And I no longer feel obligated to go above and beyond for that. So in this case, this guy is, again, he's not a customer yet. He's ranting and raving about a listing. He's not made me an offer. He's not attempted to buy it. Had he just watched the item and not done anything, I would have offered him a 10% discount as a watcher. It's my standard items on sale. It's in my send offers eligible. Boom, 10% offer. Right off rip. He didn't even have to do anything, and he'd have got more money off. If he had come to me nicely and just said, hey, I looked at this item. I'm really interested in it. I appreciate that you've put pictures up of this crease in the cover and the sticker. I'm not sure I can get it off without the residue being left on there. Can you do a little bit more for me on the price? Absolutely. I would have done it. But because he chose to come at me in a negative and combative manner, the message that he got back was, thanks for looking. I suggest you find one elsewhere. And I blocked him. You can let me know in the comments what you think of that particular tactic. But I was watching, I saw a reel a couple of days ago on Instagram, and it was a clip of a Keanu Reeves interview. And I don't know who he was talking to or what he was even talking about. But he said something to the effect of, when someone is mean to you or rude to you, don't get mad. Don't get upset. You should be glad about it. You should be happy that that person has revealed themselves to you as someone that you don't want to be part of your life. And there are 7 billion other people in the world, plus or minus, that you can interact with that will be perfectly reasonable human beings. And the same is true here for me. There are millions of buyers out there on eBay, on Etsy, on Mercari. I don't have to deal with someone who's just going to be rude and nasty. It's just not. And to be fair, this is an item, mind you, it's a $9.99 item that is 40% off. So it's $5.99 plus shipping. And this guy is already, he hasn't bought it yet. He's squawking about the quality of the item. As Ms. Lachey said, it can only go downhill from there. Even if I had given him a discount, even if I had acquiesced to whatever his wishes may have been, there's a really good chance it was going to result in neutral feedback, or feedback extortion, or a request for additional off, or an item not as described filing, or it's just nothing good is going to come from a situation, in my opinion, where the first interaction is combative and confrontational. So my tactic on that is, those people, I just send them a very polite message and block them. It's the same thing for me when a customer wants to return something. So I posted a few weeks ago over on Instagram. A guy had reached out. He bought a cassette tape. Again, it's like a $5 item. And he sends me this message that essentially says, hey, I hate to even bring this up because I know you're an independent seller, but I finally got around to playing this tape and it's broken. Is there anything we can do? Absolutely. I am going to bend over backwards to try to help that guy out. He could have come at me the way a lot of people do, which is, what are you trying to pull here? You sent me this defective item. You're a shady seller. I'm going to put you on blast on Twitter, and I'm going to report you to eBay. I demand a full refund. That guy's not getting anything. That guy is going to get a message that says, I'm sorry you're having an issue with the item and it doesn't meet your satisfaction. I offer free returns. Request a return with eBay. Send it back to me once I've got it and inspect it, and it's in the same condition in which it left here. I will happily refund your money. Thank you. The end. This guy, he was polite. He was apologetic. Once we determined what the actual problem was with the item, I gave him a full refund, including his shipping, and told him to just discard the item, or if he could fix it and make it work, he could just keep it. It was not as I represented it. He was polite. He was genuine. Maybe he was scamming me too. I don't know. But he was nice about it. And that to me, that level of communication and that being an adult or whatever you want to call it makes all the difference. It takes that business relationship to that next level for me, where it is, I feel like I can go above and beyond because you have been nice and polite and communicated in a courteous and professional manner. So that guy took care of my other experiences, Ben, that the guys who are the people, I keep saying guys, but the people who are ranting and raving and demanding a return or whatever, if you call them out on it, again, stand them up and say, hey, you know what? Return the thing and then I'll take care of you. You almost never hear from them again. At least that's been my experience. They don't end up leaving feedback. They don't send you another message. They don't ask to return the item. There's nothing wrong with it. They're just trying to get you to give them a refund for nothing or an adjustment for nothing. I'm out on that program. I just won't do it. I'm that petty. I will pay for the return shipping. I do offer 30-day free returns to get the item back and then take care of the customer and then block them. My block list on eBay is pretty substantial. I would guess it's well over 100 people who have either approached me in that combative way or have in some way tried to do something that I felt was unethical or fraudulent or made a request that was above and beyond reason. And I don't have time to mess with those people. There are too many other people out there that are willing to do business with you kind of on your terms to put up with that kind of nonsense. So Ms. Lachey says right on, it's been a manipulative tactic to get a discount. Absolutely. They're just trying to get something extra. And again, I'm easily manipulated if you're just nice to me. Ask me in a polite way for a refund or adjustment or a little bit more off. And if it's within my power to do it, I absolutely will take care of people. Again, I think customer service is super important, but it has to be a two-way street. That relationship has to be one of mutual respect and courteous communication and whatever. And if you just come at me, that's not going to work well for you. My reseller treasure, hello, welcome to the show. Glad you could make it out. I appreciate it. Sissy Moore, morning, everyone. Finally made it to a live. That's awesome. Good to see you. Suzanne Roll, when a buyer is being a pita from the start, it will never be a good sale. No, nope. And to be fair, again, this was a $5.99 item. I'm not going to go out of my way for that. Had it been a $599 item, would I have maybe put up with a little bit more shenanigans? Yeah, maybe. Everything has a price. So maybe I would have. But by and large, no, I don't. That just does not work for me. Ms. Lachey, my second favorite tactic is the sad story. I've started to counter those with my own sad story. I 100% work with people who are upfront and reasonable. Yes, I get that a lot on offers. I'm a single mom, homeschooling 8 kids, yada, yada. Can you sell me this book for $10? I get it. You may very well be. And I know what you're trying to do, but you could just ask for the discount. I'm a pretty straightforward person. I don't need the whole backstory, sob story that you're, a crippled Vietnam vet or whatever it is. I hear all kinds of stuff, and I'm sure most of you do as well. My reseller treasure, especially when you have an issue, come to know your real buyers from manipulators. Absolutely. You can tell just, again, even by the tone of the message, kind of, am I dealing with someone who is legit here and trying to just do business, not trying to pull something over. I don't know. That kind of stuff drives me nuts. Be kind to me and I'll be kind to you as both a buyer and a seller. You find this is the best way to solve issues. Absolutely. You come to me and you need my help with something, like the guy at Best Buy. He needs our help. He's got a product that for whatever reason doesn't work. It's broken. It just doesn't do what he wants it to do. I never got to the point with him in that first meeting where I even knew what it was he needed, because he made me so mad by treating my people bad that I just threw him out, essentially. you need my help. You're much more likely to get my assistance if you come to me and you ask me nicely. And I always tried to manage that way too. When if anybody is in the chat who ever worked for me, and I was a big please and thank you, and I really appreciate it, and yada yada whatever. I tried to manage people in the same way that I wanted to be treated, and that I expected them to then treat our customers. And that kind of stuff just goes a long way. My reseller treasure. Yep, you're right. They never contact you back. That's when you know. Yes, and those folks also get automatic blocks. Once I'm sure that that situation has resolved itself and I'm not going to have to go through any more stuff, blocked. I'm done. I just don't have the time for it. It's not petty. It's just not being a doormat. Black cat flips. Yes, thank you. And that's true. Again, people and retailers have done this to themselves with the customer is always right kind of philosophy. They have allowed customers. I was in Walmart once behind a guy who was returning a single Hot Wheel. And I'm kind of a Hot Wheel guy. If you've, seen my show, you've probably seen the Hot Wheels wall, and I've talked about it. I love Hot Wheels. The packaging on the Hot Wheel that this guy was returning with no receipt was packaging from probably the 1980s. This was a very, very old Hot Wheel. He had not bought it in the last 10 years at a retail store. And the Walmart customer service rep scanned it, the UPC came up, and they took it back, and they gave the guy the dollar and change or whatever it was. I mean, it was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever seen. That kind of behavior, we've talked about it on this show before. Amazon setting the expectations of like free shipping and next day shipping and all of these kind of above and beyond. Again, when you're able to do it, it's great, but the customers have come to expect it, and they've come to expect it beyond, for me, where that generic transaction is. They gave me money and I'm giving them stuff. When they want more than that, I feel like they have to give more than that as well. I may be wrong on that, but I just don't have the patience anymore for it. My reseller treasure, yes, Miss Lachey, I do the same. Rebut with my sad story. Yes, and we're all like the guy who messaged me. I hate to even bring this up because I know you're an independent seller. Absolutely, I'm a one-man operation. This is my only source of income. When you ask me for a discount, that's not coming out of eBay's pocket. Well, I guess maybe a little bit of it is in the fees, but it's not. All that is my money. It's my profit that I'm giving you. If I'm making $10 profit on this thing and I give you a $3 discount, that's $3 of profit that's gone. The price of the item, the cost of the item to me didn't change. If I paid $2 for it, I still paid $2 for it. I'm just giving you my money when I give you a discount. And if you're going to ask for that, which is totally a reasonable thing to do, you should be understanding of where that funding is coming from. We are not, anybody in this chat is not Walmart or Amazon with tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds or millions of dollars in the bank to be able to fund these extra steps or price adjustments or refunds or whatever the case may be. It's just not, we're not in that position. I know I'm not. I'm very appreciative of people who understand that. And to be fair, the platforms don't always do a great job of letting people know. People still think when they buy something on eBay, they're buying it from eBay, or particularly on Amazon, they don't understand the whole third-party seller concept. So it can be problematic for some customers to understand what actually the process is with these platforms. So in terms of blocking, like I said, I block people. I've blocked people on eBay. I give them credit for allowing us to do that, allowing us the opportunity. A customer gets to choose who they do business with. They get to see your feedback. They get to see your items. They get to make a decision on whether or not they want to do business with you. And eBay and Mercari, both to their credit, allow you the opportunity to make that decision also. This person was rude. This person was combative. This person had unreasonable demands. They made a ridiculous offer, whatever the case may be. And you have decided not to do business with them. at least on those two sites, you absolutely can do that. Etsy, if you're listening, you should probably offer that as well. If you're not familiar, you can block someone on Etsy, but all it does is block them from messaging you. They can still buy from you, which also probably won't end well if they can't communicate with you. If you've blocked them from communicating and they still buy from you, gosh, that could lead somewhere really bad as well. Miss Lachey, I've started to put thank you for your support of my small business in my description. Yeah, and there is more of that kind of awareness coming out with like Small Business Saturday during the holiday season, and lots of kind of pushes for support local and support small businesses. So there's probably more awareness of this issue than there was, say, 20 or 25 years ago. But reminding people of that is certainly not a problem. What's your experience with people actually reading your descriptions? I've not found it to be super high, because I get questions all the time about, is this or is this that? And I'm like, it's in the product description. It's in the photos, even in some cases. Those are probably people that are potential blocks also, just because they're not paying enough attention to your listing. And if you've disclosed flaws, as you should, that's our obligation as sellers, to be as upfront as possible about what the quality of our item is, not only for the customer, but to protect ourselves from potential returns and negative feedback and so on. But when you put all that out into the world and your potential buyers don't take the time to look at it or read it, again, what are we doing here? Why am I completely convinced I want to do business with you? I will usually err on the side of going ahead with it. But it always makes me a little nervous when I get these random questions that if you had scrolled over one more picture, you'd have gotten the answer to. And again, like I said, I don't mind to go look at a book and take another picture of it, or to see if great grandma was in this yearbook from 1942 or whatever it is. If you message me with that kind of request, I'm more than happy to help. But when you come at me and you're rude and you're negative, whether it's trying to get something out of me like that, or just in a normal friendship or relationship, that just doesn't work for me. I'm too old. I have too little time left to deal with that kind of noise in my life. So, and we've all got stuff we're dealing with. So no, thank you. Continuing on, if anybody has anything else in the chat they would like to discuss, and again, if anybody has any stories of particularly egregious customer situations that they would like to share, you can leave them in the chat. I'll be happy to read them, or you can click the link that's pinned at the top and come on the live and share it with everyone here. By and large, customers are the lifeblood of our business. We've got to have them. We've got to take care of them. But again, for me, it's a big deal that they treat me with the respect that they expect in return. The whole, golden rule, I guess, treat everybody the way you want to be treated kind of thing. And customers are increasingly not doing that, again, because in my opinion, retailers have kind of spoiled them by letting them know they can just get away with murder in a lot of stores, which is really unfortunate. So again, if you have anything else in the chat, I don't have any really news articles or anything additional to cover here today. So I just wanted to kind of hop on and see what kind of other stories were out there, and what kind of criteria other people use when they decide whether or not to complete a transaction, or whether they decide they want to block someone. Again, I try to assume positive intent and that you're a good person until you prove to me otherwise, and then I'm done. Here you go. Let me get over here. Black Cat Flip says, I had a Squishmallow returned for not being as squishy as expected. Yep. That's the kind of stuff that you'll run into. And again, had you tried to fight that, eBay was going to side with the customer. They almost always side with the customer. When I played basketball, I had a coach once that said, play well enough that the officials don't matter. And that's This is a very similar thing. I try to run my business in a way that will prevent eBay from having to get involved in it, because if and when they do, they are almost never going to side with you. The only time where that seems to not be the case is in the case like of an item not received. I had one of those recently where the guy was telling me the item never got there. The post office had scanned it as delivered. He complained. eBay did not refund him. They blocked him from leaving feedback on that transaction and the whole 9 yards. But other than that, if you're in any kind of a situation with a customer, eBay, like most big companies and retailers, is going to bend over backwards for the customer, not necessarily support the seller. So, yes, it's amazing. And again, I talk about this all the time. Returns are part of the business for me. I don't have a problem with returns. If a customer gets an item, and I mean, I've returned stuff that I just wasn't happy with. It just didn't do what I thought it would do, or it when I used it, it didn't solve whatever the problem was that I had. I've bought equipment for this podcast that I tried and it just didn't work for me, and I returned it. I mean, it's just part of the cost of doing business. But yeah, you see some crazy, crazy stuff. Ms. Lachey, I answer 99% of questions, but at some point you have to determine if the person is serious. Yeah, I try. At some point I will tell a customer, gather up all of your thoughts on this item and all of your questions and send me one last message. And then I will answer all of that at once. And then I touch 400 or 500 items a week between stuff I'm buying, stuff I'm listing, and stuff I'm shipping. I can't, my warehouse is off site. I can't be driving over there 4 or 5 times a day to look at an item to determine if it's X or Y. So let's try to consolidate all this into one message and get it knocked out that way. But again, I will try to accommodate as many and as much of those as I can. If I've already been to my warehouse, like for instance, today, if you sent me a message this morning and said, hey, I'm interested in this yearbook, can you tell me if so-and-so is in it? I would respond immediately saying, that item is actually stored off-site. I won't be in that building again until tomorrow morning, but I will let you know tomorrow. That way I have, if it's on Etsy, I have met their requirement for a response within a certain time frame. eBay is tracking that as well. They don't score you on it, but they will tell buyers that you normally respond within 24 hours or whatever it is. So I've ticked that box off. I've answered the question in terms of at least providing a response and what I'm going to do going forward. And then I'll go back over and take care of it the next day. But I'm not trying to drive back and forth to my warehouse multiple times to answer multiple questions on the same item. Ms. Lachey, I have someone who is pleasant, but for every cookbook I post, they ask if there's a certain type of recipe in the book. Yeah, see, that person is, for me, a chronic problem, and I would probably be inclined, unless they're purchasing a lot of these cookbooks from me, I might be inclined to block that person. Again, what recipe are we looking for that would be in multiple cookbooks? I don't, I talk about them all the time, like the church cookbooks or the school cookbooks, where your aunt or your grandma or somebody may have had a recipe in it, but that's kind of a one-off. That's not, I'm looking for a recipe for Swedish meatballs or something, and every time you post a cookbook, I'm going to ask, does it have a recipe for that? Get out of here. Am I wrong? Is that wrong? Is that too much? I probably wouldn't do that. I would probably stop that person in their tracks. Oh, man. And again, I always try to say customer service it is very important, but there is a limit. Again, most of us are one-person operations. There's only so much we can do. And especially looking at $8, $10, $12, $15, $20 items, there's only so much effort that we're probably going to be able to realistically put in to try to take care of someone on an item like that with questions, because it's more productive of my time to list 4 or 5 more items than it is to drive over to my warehouse and find out if there's a recipe for Swedish meatballs in a particular cookbook. Does that make sense? I'm not talking crazy, am I? I've been known to do that, but uh, customers are awesome. They're again, they're our life's blood. We're nothing without them. We're warehouses full of books that nobody wants. But there does come a limit on how much we should be expected to do, let alone be kind of willing to do. So, anything else? Anyone have any stories to share? Again, I appreciate everybody coming out this morning. Um, Here we go. How do you handle the persistent lowballer? I don't see a lot of, uh, especially on eBay, lowball offers, because when I create my listings, I put in my buy it now price, then I put in allow offers, and then I put in a minimum acceptable offer, whatever it is. If the book is $19.99, that number might be $16. And if somebody is offering me something below that, it's automatically being declined by eBay. So I'm not seeing the ridiculous lowball offers on those items. Some people would say that I'm costing myself opportunities to sell those items. What if the guy offered me $15.99 and my cutoff point is 16? My theory is I've already determined that 16 bucks is as low as I'm willing to go on this item. Would I go another penny if I had set it at $15.99? Yeah, I probably would. But again, in my case, I've got nearly 11,000 listings. If I'm getting 10 or 20 ridiculous lowball offers a day, every day, that's a significant amount of time that I've got to take to either decline this offer or counter offer and then go back and forth with a customer. So I don't do it. On Mercari, if I get what I think is an absolutely ridiculous offer, I've got something for 20 bucks and they offer me 5, I usually will just block that person out of spite. Because again, as we said at the top, nothing good is going to come from that. I'm not going to be able to make that customer happy because we're so far apart. We're 75% apart on the price. I can't, there's no middle ground. There's nowhere to meet him. My number is 16. He's going to come up to 8 and we're still nowhere. Why go through that? So I do block a lot of those folks. Better Health Blessings, welcome. Better late than never. Good morning. Amy 5 Aquatics, hello all. Big Dre, good morning. Sales were good yesterday. 4 shirts, 1 jacket, and a pair of shoes for about $200 total, including shipping. That is a good day. How is everybody's sales on eBay? I saw the Pure Hustle podcast guys. I haven't had a chance to watch the episode yet, but it popped up in my YouTube feed today, and their episode last night was apparently eBay prices are crashing. Are you seeing that? Is that something that you're finding? Are prices eroding? Are sales down? My sales have been a little soft. I talked about in the Monday podcast last week was pretty mediocre for me. This week is off to a much better start, so things seem to be kind of getting back to normal. But I'd be curious what your experience is, particularly on eBay, which seems to have a lot more peaks and valleys than some of the others. Kaylee Debs, I'm late. Hello, welcome. Big Dre, I think I would check the book for a recipe since I would be going to the storage unit anyway to get items to ship. Yes, and again, that's something I mentioned probably before you got here since you were running a little late. I get those questions all the time. Is my grandma in such and such a yearbook? And when I go over there, I will look for that. In the case of someone who every time I posted a new cookbook would have a question on that, that's where I might draw the line. I don't think I would be doing that for the same person every single time I posted a yearbook. There comes a point where the cookbook, they're $5, buy one and see if it's in there kind of thing. Again, I'm willing to go to a certain point, but not crazy, not every time. Kaylee Debs, my sales are soft too. I'm sorry to hear that. Let us know, what are you trying to do to boost your sales right now? Just curious what other folks are doing. Slow, but I only have 986 items listed. That's only 986 I would not use the word only. That's a pretty healthy number. I know a lot of sellers who feel like somewhere between 500 and 2,000 is a terrific number for them. It depends on the type of items that you're selling. In the case of media, I feel like it's a numbers game. There's a lot of long tail and I'll post all kinds of stuff and just see what sticks. So that's a little bit different, but 986 listings is nothing to feel that is a low number, in my opinion. I'm in the valley this week for sure. Yeah, sorry. Hopefully it turns around. Like I said, I was pretty slow through Saturday, and then Sunday things started to pick up. I had a couple of big sales, so you'll want to catch next week's episode of the regular podcast, because I do have some pretty exciting stuff to share there. But things have kind of rebounded. Had my biggest day ever yesterday, 19 items. Congratulations. That is fantastic. I haven't had a biggest day ever in a long time, but I've talked about in the regular podcast, in the Monday show, probably 9 of the last 12 months have been my best month ever in the nearly 5 years I've been doing this. So while I've had some peaks and valleys and some weeks that were not so great, overall, my sales have been increasing at a steady pace, which is probably a function of me continuing to list more and better items as well. But yeah, no, it's been good. Miss Lachey, May was a good month. Excellent. Congratulations. It was for me as well. May was pretty solid. I'm changing keywords, prices down or maybe up. That is key. Just making a change sometimes in the price. I know a lot of people feel like you got to just mark stuff down. Sometimes just making a change in a price will trigger someone to take action. Oh my gosh, maybe the market is increasing. I better buy now while I can get it still at this price. So that's a good strategy. Running sales, promoting, changing photos, etc. Sounds like you're on the plan. I do. If you've been following me at all, you know I do monthly like clearance sales. I mark everything that's been in my shop for more than a year is on sale. And I really try to leverage that into moving some stale inventory and just generating cash flow. Most of the stuff that I have was purchased in lots, and the lot has long since made its money. So if I'm selling stuff, I know Dixon's Pickens has been talking about this for the last probably couple of weeks. He's selling a bunch of stuff for like $2 and $3, old dead inventory. His money is long since made. He's marking this stuff way down, and he has had some absolutely record sales. So making any kind of change to your listings can be really positive. And of course, running sales and promotions is also very good. Well, thank you, Amy5 Aquatic says. Absolutely. Congratulations. I've noticed an uptick in sales for my pricier items now that I offer free shipping on items $60 or more. So there you go. There's another tip. I know a lot of people do that. They'll run either on an ongoing basis or as part of a promotion. They'll run a free shipping if you spend X dollars or more, or if you buy 3 items or more, or whatever. Those are tools that you can use, particularly in eBay. You can set up promotional shipping rules. We kind of looked at that a few weeks ago, where you can say, buy X amount and get discounted shipping, or buy X amount and receive a price discount. So those kind of tools where you entice people to buy more items or spend more money to get something free or get an additional discount can be super powerful. Black Cat Flips, May was my best month, but so far the bar is pretty low. Well, yeah, we all started somewhere, right? I can remember sometimes I look at my Monday is always a big shipping day, obviously, because you've had the full weekend, or Tuesday after a 3-day holiday like Memorial Day, you'll have a huge shipping number. And I'll look at the amount of money I'm spending in postage and shipping and remember that when I started in this business, there were days, sometimes multiple days in a row where I did not hit that number that I'm now spending once a week or twice a week just in shipping costs. So it'll come. Keep working at it, and it will definitely get there. Been promoting running sales on older items, sending and responding to offers. Yes, I send offers multiple times a day. It's one of the first things I do in the morning. Once I've gathered up all the stuff I'm shipping out that morning, the next thing I do is go into my send offers eligible and send all those folks offers. So doing that, again, people will say that it triggers the eBay algorithm because it's just activity on your site. It gets people maybe to look at your items again. For me, maybe 10% of those people buy. We all know a lot of those people that are in that are watching your item because they have one that they would like to sell as well. So they're not all necessarily buyer opportunities, but you don't know if you don't throw it out there. So sending out those offers and responding either by accepting or countering an offer is gold. Also, cross posting and the sales are better on other platforms. I sell on eBay, Posh, Mercari, and Etsy. I talk about that, gosh, I feel like every week. The more eyeballs you can get on your items through either promotions or through cross listing, the better. The more at bats you're going to get. I am a huge believer in selling on as many platforms as you can adequately manage. There comes a point. I was watching that Shed Flips. Lonnie was talking about. They've had some issues recently where they have missed deleting items that they had cross posted, and that can be a real downside if you don't stay on top of that stuff and you have items that are listed on multiple platforms. Don't bite off more than you can chew. 4, 5 is probably the maximum unless you have it set up with like Vendoo or List Perfectly where they're automatically delisting items. Having to do that manually, it can leave you in a mess. So, but 4, I currently do 3. I'm on Etsy, eBay, and Mercari. I talked about, I used to do Bonanza. They changed their shipping program, and I didn't particularly like the direction that was going, so I got off there and cost myself that 1 or 2 sales a month that I was doing over on Bonanza. Miss Lachey, I have checked numerous times, even gave book suggestions and online resources to help. Last time was the last time. Yeah, there comes a point, like with anything, know when to say when. You've had enough. There's only so much you can be expected to do, again, especially if you're a one-person operation. Amy 5 Aquatics, April was best for me so far this year. Excellent. My best month historically, weirdly, is January. I've been doing this almost 5 years now, and my best month every year since I've been doing it has always been January. I don't know if it's because people have gift cards that they need to burn. I assume I don't have a big necessarily fourth quarter. My stuff is like mostly vintage books, and they can be difficult to gift. You know, this person is a book lover, but you don't know if they like 1800s era Charles Dickens or whatever the case may be. Those folks, a lot of them will get gift cards and then they come swooping in January. And January is usually my biggest month by a fairly significant margin. It's usually 15 or 20% higher than any other month for me, which if you had told me that when I first got started, I'd have been floored. Having spent 30 plus years in retail where the Thanksgiving to right before Christmas is the biggest 4 or 5 week period. If you had told me that January would outstrip that as a reseller, I would have been amazed. But that is the position that I am in. I'm going to take a quick drink here. But going back to this kind of the beating the summer slowdown, which I think is what a lot of folks are starting to feel. You've got people, you went through the high school and college graduations, the Memorial Day weekend, people are starting to take vacation. So this is a time of year where it can be a little daunting, especially if you're a new seller and you've not experienced this. You can start to kind of have some self-doubt and worry about, gosh, did I do something wrong? And this is just part of the cycles of business. Summer can be a little bit suspect, and it takes a little while to get used to those, again, the peaks and valleys. If you're on a program that you know has been working, you had a great spring, April was great, May was really good, you know you're doing the right things, just stay true to your process. Maybe you tweak it, maybe like last summer, I switched from 5% promoted listings to 7 just to try to jumpstart some stuff. And 7 has worked out perfectly for me. It's probably 60% of my business over on eBay is from the promoted listings standard program. And at 7%, I have no issues with that. I, of course, would rather not be paying an average of 20% total in fees, but you got to feed the beast. That's the way that is set up right now. And if you want to be successful to some extent, you got to play along with what they're doing. But When you've established your program, stick with it and always be open to new ideas and be willing to learn. But when you see things are working, don't panic in June when things get a little soft for you. Black Cat Flips, I've recently added Depop and have gotten a few sales considering the low amount of listings I have there, mostly jewelry. I don't sell anything in a category that would work really for Depop, so I don't pay as much attention to them as I probably should. But I know it can be a really, really good platform for some sellers. I was watching something yesterday, and I can't remember. I think it's a site called Go Imagine that is a potential competitor for Etsy for artists and handmade goods. They are much more stringent on their handmade requirements. You can't do print on demand, for instance. You have to either use a local print shop or print the items yourself. So it's a little more true to what Etsy's original image was. So there are all these kind of alternative platforms, and if you can list to them easily and or inexpensively, again, getting your stuff in front of more eyeballs is always going to be a net positive. Even if it only amounts to a handful of sales a month, it's probably good for you. Amy 5 Aquatics, I started selling again after an 18-year break. Many things have improved since then on eBay. And that is no lie. The whole e-commerce thing, I look back, I'm with you. I started selling, I had a record store and I started selling collectible items, CDs and whatnot on eBay back in 2000. So I've been on eBay off and on for 24 years now. And it is such I can remember waiting for people to send money orders or mail you a check, and you had to wait and you had to store your own pictures and then I mean, it was just the improvements in these sites. They're not perfect. They have their flaws. They have their issues. But overall improvements in these sites over the last 20 odd years is pretty remarkable. I'm curious to see, to be fair, how AI impacts the ability, particularly for newer sellers, to get onboarded on the platform and start to be successful. Because with eBay in particular, one of the biggest obstacles to entry is the difficulty of navigating their site and their listing process and knowing, kind of what things you got to put on and how to do a good product description. And AI can probably be helpful there for newer sellers who are not familiar with how that whole process works. Hopefully, those sellers use that as a learning tool rather than a crutch, so that they learn how to do listings so they can be less reliant on the AI as they get more experience. But I guess time will tell on that. Let me know what you think of AI, just generally or specifically as it applies to all of the sites. They're all talking about AI. Etsy has their AI generated gift mode where they're trying to make suggestions using AI and buyer profiles, potential buyer profiles, to suggest gifts for people. And there's all kinds of stuff going on, which, to be fair, to some extent runs counter to what these sites were originally set up for, where it was an individual selling to an individual, particularly on Etsy, where it's artisan based. And I'm not completely convinced I like how AI works on some of those. But what drove me away back then was when they started charging a final value fee on shipping. I was selling vintage antique glass mostly, so heavy packages, right? And here is an instance where sellers ruined that for themselves, because you saw this wave of people who astutely picked up on the fact that you could sell an item for $1 and charge $200 for shipping, and you weren't going to pay any fees on the shipping. So this, unfortunately, was a mess that was created by sellers trying to game the system. I agree 100%. I don't like paying selling fees on shipping because I don't make any money on shipping. My stuff is 95% media mail. There's no commercial discount rate, so I have no opportunity. If shipping on the item is $4.13, the counter rate is the same as the eBay rate. I get no savings. I'm paying whatever, up to 20% of that $4.13 to eBay in fees. Plus I've got my time, plus I've got the bubble mailer and whatever supplies I have to use, tape and whatever else. So shipping is already a losing proposition for a lot of us. And, but that was, unfortunately, it was a situation that sellers brought on themselves by gaming the system. One area where they could, some of these platforms are always looking for ways to help sellers, to benefit sellers, to give them some kind of assistance to make them want to list more and sell more. And one of the things may be to adjust fees on things like shipping, or Etsy, for instance, with their offsite ad fee. If that 15% only applied to the item, I would have no problem with that whatsoever. But the fact that it applies to the item and the shipping and the tax and the whole 9 yards, when somebody from Australia buys a 3-pound book that costs me $45, $55, $60 to ship, I'm paying $4.50 to sometimes as much as $9 in extra fees just on the shipping. On a $12 or $20 book, I don't have that kind of margin. It just doesn't make sense. So again, Etsy, if you're listening, it might be time to think about how you want to charge those fees. I get that you don't want people abusing the system and counting on the fact that they're not going to pay a fee on shipping. But some of those fees, whew, man, that 15% on overseas shipping is a nightmare. We are quickly coming up on an hour, which is where I like to try to keep these. So if anybody has any last thoughts they'd like to pop in the chat before we close for today, as always, I appreciate you coming out and spending some time. I'm really bad at this. If you got something out of this or just had a good time here today, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Let the YouTube algorithm know that this was a productive use of your time. International shipping is so much easier now, though. It is. I talked about it. I think it was last week's show. We talked about international shipping. Their new international shipping program is just, for me, it's fantastic. I send the stuff to them. They take care of the customs paperwork. They take care of returns. They take care of customer issues. They essentially do everything for you if you use their service, which is fantastic. I am a big proponent of the eBay international shipping program. Ms. Lachey, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate all of you coming out, and whether you're still listening or whether you actually just sit here and watch me chat. I appreciate that you spend some time with me each week. I'm going to try to continue to do those. If you have any topics that you would like to see discussed in future episodes, pop those in the chat as well before we close this thing out. I'm always looking for new topics to discuss. This week's just came to me because I had a guy that got under my skin a little bit by being a bad potential buyer. Frustrating. What else have we got here? Thanks, everyone. Yep, thank you. I appreciate you coming out. And I'm surprised nobody wanted to join. Are you camera shy, or do you not have the equipment to hop on and do? This is an open invitation as well. If you'd like to just come on the show at some point in the future and spend an hour having a conversation, would love to do that. So let me know either in the chat, or you can email me at galaxycds@gmail.com, or message me over on Instagram at GalaxyCDsRocks, which is also how you can find me on Mercari now that they've introduced their little usernames, which is weird. Amy5 Aquatics, I had one of those this week too. Yeah, people can be funny, and again, you know, it's a small percentage of them. I'll tell another story before we get out of here. A long time ago, very early in my retail career, I had an owner of a company that came to me. We were discussing shoplifting and stuff in a group meeting, and he said, "Run your business for the 99.9% of the people that have good intentions, that are here to support your business and do the right thing. Don't try to run your business for that 0.1 or 0.5% of the people who are trying to pull one over on you, or are trying to steal from you, or trying to whatever, because you will make it more difficult for the other 99% to do business with you." And that has always stuck with me. The majority of people are good people. They want to do right. They want to support your business. They want to participate in what you're trying to do. They're not out to scam you, despite what you see on the message boards and on Facebook groups and whatever. Though, for me, those people are an absolute minority. And especially since you have the ability now to block them, you can mitigate a lot of that and not have to try to run your business, always bearing in mind that there's going to be that one person that wants to pull something over on you. Don't run your business like that. That's just my advice. It's not mine. Originally, I got it from someone else many, many years ago, but I have always tried to manage my businesses and my stores that I was running for others with that kind of thought in mind. Black Cat Flips, that hour flew by. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. Enjoyed catching you live. Thanks for coming out. I appreciate it. And I haven't forgotten you on those cards that you sent me. I haven't had any luck actually trying to get any translations done, but I appreciate it. Amy5 says that is great advice. I appreciate it. I thought it was brilliant advice. Like I said, I was very early in my career, and it's something that has stuck with me forever. I remember you used to do print on demand. Have you considered selling your own brand coffee mugs or even Galaxian coffee? I do actually. There are links in the YouTube to my spring store. I do have Galaxy CD shirts and mugs and some other things if you'd like to support the show by doing that. There's hoodies and t-shirts and all kinds of stuff over there that you can buy. I don't have my own brand of coffee. I should maybe consider that because I drink a lot of coffee. Maybe I could work out some kind of deal where I could get a discount on my own coffee. But yeah, if you'd like to support the show, obviously there are memberships available here on YouTube. Black Cat Flips is a member. Thank you so much for your support there. You can do that. Obviously, liking and sharing, all of those things are helpful. But there is actually Galaxy CDs merch that has the same logo that you see in the upper corner there. That is a logo that I have used since 2000 when I first opened my original CD store. So it is a well-served, money well spent on that logo 24 years ago. It still serves me to this day. So, but yes, thank you for the suggestion. With that, I believe our business here is done. We are almost at an hour. Again, thank you so much for spending a little time with me this week, and we will see you on Monday. You have been listening to the Galaxy CDs Rocks and Flips Reseller Talk podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you again next time.